Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo. WTF. Hello, I'm hgtudor, and I should imagine that quite a few of you have seen a recent interview involving the stars of the Wicked film, Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, and you may well have said, "What the fuck have I just witnessed?" Let's have a little bit of context before we examine these two. Wicked originally started life as a musical, and the music and lyrics were created by Stephen Schwartz, and there was a book by Winnie Holtzman. It's a loose adaptation of the 1995 Gregory Maguire novel Wicked, the life and times of the Wicked Witch of the West, which is in turn based on L. Frank Baum's 1900 novel The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, and its very famous 1939 film adaptation. The musical is told from the perspective of two witches, Elphaba and Galinda, before and after Dorothy's arrival in Oz. The story explores the complex friendship between Elphaba, who becomes the Wicked Witch of the West, and Galinda, who becomes Glinda the Good. Their relationship is tested by their contrasting personalities, conflicting viewpoints, shared love interest, reactions to the corrupt rule of the Wonderful Wizard, and ultimately, Elphaba's tragic fall. The original Broadway production has won many awards, and it has been successful in London as well. Many records broken, and by all accounts, an enjoyable watch. A two-part film adaptation has been created, directed by John Chu, and this stars Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba and Ariana Grande as Galinda. The first part was released at the end of last month and has already been a critical and commercial success. The second part will premiere in November next year. Many people have enjoyed the film and the musical, and why not? But it's not the content of the film or the musical that has got people curious, but rather the behaviour of its two stars. So let's begin by having a little look at the two of them as they make an appearance at the Met Gala earlier this year. Now, it may well be the case that in the course of this video your cringeometer explodes and is rendered useless thereafter. What do we witness in this piece of footage? Well, first of all, we have the pretentiousness of their air kisses, and you'll notice immediately the holding of hands. This is something we see repeatedly with these two. It's all part of asserting control over one another, but also the presentation of an image that we're united and together. Look how wonderful we are together. Look upon us, world. Aren't we such a wonderful pairing? Naturally, they are at the Met Gala, so they expect to be filmed and photographed, and they certainly seek out the cameras. You will notice as well that Erivo has a butterfly stuck to the back of her head, and it looks like Grande has stars either side of her face. Okay. And noteworthy is the fact that Erivo has the good old septum ring in, which in my experience tends to denote a certain personality character, that the individual is invariably self-absorbed, over-emotional, and likes nothing more than to tell the world how they are feeling. I'm not really sure what pose Ariana Grande is striking. She must still think that she is in Oz. Now, they're both actors, so one would obviously expect a degree of performance from them. But with these two, it goes beyond that. They're arriving at an event. There's plenty of people that arrive, strike a pose, there's nothing to it, and then walk on. Naturally, the narcissist looks to milk the situation, drawing in the fuel that's provided by those that are onlooking. Here, this is just more than turning up. This is wholly performative. It's performative because of the necessity of the two of them being together. The air kissing, the holding hands. It's all, look at us, look at us. So the Met Gala gets us off to a start, but then let's have a look at them at the Wicked premiere.
Ariana, Cynthia! Ladies, together, smile. Ladies, to the left! The left side!
Already a theme is developing, isn't it? The posing, the performative nature of their appearance, the hand-holding again, the assertion of control over one another, the image that's being presented to the outside world, and then the cutesy whispering and then laughter thereafter. It's all, again, a performance for the benefit of themselves in order to portray a particular image. Now, when you watch this, you probably think to yourself, it's like watching a pair of 13-year-olds turning up at the school prom. Yeah. Ariana Grande is 31 years old, and she's no stranger to the world of entertainment. She's been warbling for years. Indeed, she only really got into singing and gained fame as a consequence of her father, who's wealthy, paying considerable sums of money to ensure that she was noticed. She can sing, and she's had some reasonable hits. Nothing against her in that regard, but she didn't get there by dint of sheer talent. Papa paved the way, which perhaps suggests a bit of a background look at the background of how Ariana Grande has probably always got what she's wanted. A bit of the Veruca Salt, I should imagine. Cynthia Erivo, she's 37 years old. So you've got a pair of women in their 30s acting like they're a pair of 13-year-olds. Now, get ready for some ick. Has that made your skin crawl, watching them mopping the sweat off one another? And notice it's not done by producing a handkerchief, it's done by using their fingers, and again is done in a performative way. It's almost like a ritual, like a mating ritual. I'll mop the sweat off you, you do it off me. I love you, I love you. Again, performative, showmanship, showcasing that's on display. It is all done as part of showing off that there's nothing natural about it. It is, as I mentioned earlier, like watching two teenagers posing and preening one another. It is quite truly pathetic that these two women are in their 30s and are behaving this way. It's all for the benefit of the onlookers. It's all to put on a show. And not so much put on a show by virtue of being characters, but behaving this way because something is driving them to act in this fashion to provoke responses, to appear cutesy, to appear as an item together. It's all part of the performance that's done to ensure that they receive reactions. Now, we're going to see a bit more of them, but where they've been interviewed, which gives us a bit more of the WTF.
Well, yeah. I think we found a little piece of ourselves in each other. I think there are little pieces of us that when we got to do this together, when we first started, each of us was missing like a little chunk. And I think we've been able to see in each other a bit of a reflection. And so I think I've gotten a little bit of her softness, and she's got
her strength,
a little bit of my strength.
Yeah. Truthfully, we're a bunch of crybabies over here.
In this interview, Ariana Grande has been asked how she and Cynthia Erivo have changed one another's lives. This is clearly such a difficult question to answer, one that is of such earth-shattering import that Ariana Grande is rendered speechless. Again, it's an over-dramatic response that is done as part of trying to elicit a response. That sitting there speechless when you're simply asked, How has somebody changed your life? She's trying to portray, of course, that Cynthia Erivo has made such a massive difference to her life. Now, come on. You're already internationally famous, wealthy, you have a substantial career behind you, and you're suddenly making out as if this woman has come along and has plucked you from obscurity, kept the wolves from the door, ensured that you've been able to eat and pay your heating bills. All that you've done is appear in a film together. By all accounts, an excellent film which many people will enjoy. Well done, good for you. But to come over dumbstruck when you're asked at this question demonstrates once again this pathetic portrayal of a particular image, and of course with the tears welling up. I'm so overcome with emotion. This is so special. We're so special. I'm so special. They talk about how each is missing a chunk of the other, as Erivo explains. And she talks about how she's gained softness from Ariana Grande, and Ariana Grande volunteers that she has gained strength from Cynthia Erivo, i.e. they've traded traits with one another. They see in each other a bit of a reflection. What they're trying to convey here is they complete one another, which are invariably the words of the narcissist. Seeing a reflection of one another because they are reflecting one another, taking traits from one another, and then passing it off as the yin and the yang, that they come together in such a way. And then, in a fairly excruciating moment, Ariana Grande states, "Truthfully, we are a bunch of," and then she puts on a baby voice, "crybabies over here," and then giggles. Pathetic. But once again, it's performative for the interviewer. It is to portray themselves as meshed, that neither they know where the one starts and where one starts and the other ends. This is the typical mindset of the narcissist, to suggest that there is this assimilation of one another into one another, the absorption, the self-interest that is exhibited here, and the manner in which it is done. Once again, the holding of the hands, the way that they talk about one another. They're a pair of actresses who've worked on a film together. And they get on. That's fine. But this over-the-top presentation of their relationship is not only barf-inducing, but it's simply performative. And it's driven by a need for recognition and response. Now, we'll move on to the pièce de résistance of the interview that you've probably seen and that you've been waiting for me to comment upon. So, here it comes.
I'm a person, and I feel, and I have feelings, and I can share them.
Mm-hmm. And if you need to cry right now, you cry.
Yeah. And someone said to me once that the green was the thing that I would love the most about Alphabet, that I would want to stay green. But actually, being green, yes, I loved playing this character. But every time I took the makeup off, I loved who I was even more. So I've come away feeling really beautiful.
It's just you f***ing are.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
I mean, God.
You
absolutely.
know?
Yeah. What you've brought to this film and to these characters, you've not just taken care of them, you have transformed them for good.
Thank you.
Really.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is also my first time ever doing a junkie.
You have been the light of the day. You are
truly-
such a gift.
You brought such light into the room. Thank you very much.
We
for
appreciate
coming
you.
into this room
Thank
today.
you.
We needed you to come in.
The most noteworthy part of the interview, and I use that in its most elastic sense, commences with Cynthia Erivo explaining, "I'm a person and I feel. I have feelings." This is delivered, of course, as if nobody's ever aware of that she's making a unique statement. Ariana Grande gives a confirmatory egging her on. And she talks about how I can share them. Wow, this is all insightful. What's the fuck's this got to do with the film? Ariana Grande interrupts by stating, "If you need to cry right now, you cry." She's issuing an instruction to Erivo, giving her permission to cry. Well, that's good of you. Since when are you the keeper of her emotions? But you think you are because you believe that you're a good person and that you are being good by allowing her to cry, when in actual fact you're showing a sense of entitlement to regulate somebody's emotions in this way. You'll also note that Ariana Grande then flaps her hand. Fuck knows what she's thinking when she's doing that. But what's actually going on, of course, is it's her attempt to demonstrate concern. Look, she's about to cry. I've given her permission to cry because I'm a very kind person. I am full of compassion, don't you know? I actually am the living embodiment of a good witch. And I've given her permission to cry, so she's about to do so. So don't speak, don't say anything, because she's about to cry and we all must witness this wonderful, wonderful moment. This exhibits Grande's sense of entitlement to behave in this way, that she's effectively trying to close down the interviewer from interrupting this magical moment which she has caused to happen by virtue of giving permission to Erivo to cry. Erivo hesitates slightly. The tears do not flow. Perhaps she's not been to the This One's Wife school of one-eye crying. And she explains, someone said to me, it was the green that I would love the most about Elphaba. Well, it's a fucking good job that you do, as you're covered head to toe in it, my dear. And that I would want to stay green. And yes, I love playing this character. Every time I took the makeup off, I loved who I was even more. I don't doubt that. If you were made of chocolate, as they say, you would eat yourself. Now, throughout all of this, Ariana Grande fixes her with a rather unwavering and unflinching stare, as if to say, I'm watching, I'm drinking all of this performance in for you, I'm here for you. It's false compassion, and it actually is a boundary incursion. Why isn't she looking back at the interviewer, but rather than staring laser-like at her companion? You also might have noticed, and if you didn't, I'd suggest that you go back and watch it again, that as Erivo states, I would want to stay green, there's a little shake of the head and a small smile that comes from Grande, and it disappears as fast as it arrives. That is a narcissistic glitch. That she isn't able to articulate what is required, and as a consequence of maintaining this intense gaze, the narcissism causes her to glitch slightly by choosing the wrong expressions just for a moment. It is like an AI robot glitching as it seeks to try and portray the appropriate facial expression at a particular point in time, and the software isn't quite up to the job. Erivo continues by explaining, I've come away feeling very beautiful, and her voice breaks because she's so overcome with her own beauty. Grande interrupts with the profanity, you fucking are, holy shit, you know? The delivery of that is so devoid of being genuine. It's such a plastic announcement. And she points with her hand as if she's displaying a muffin that she's returning to a baker because it's not got enough blueberries in it. The interviewer then explains, clearly getting taken in by this self-absorbed wankfest, what you've brought to this film and these characters, you've not just taken care of them, you've transformed them. Ah, fuck off. And then she has to add, this was my first time doing this kind of interview. At that, Grande and Erivo both lean forward at the same time, still holding hands, and Grande announces, you have been the light of the day. You're such a gift. We appreciate you. Permission granted to vomit. Erivo adds, you brought such light into the room. Thank you for coming into the room today. We needed you to come. It's all flattery, and it's got the authenticity of it's as authentic as the wolf in the proverbial sheep's clothing, passing itself off as trying to be something that it's not. And we have the pair of them exhibiting false compassion, flattering the interviewer with their ridiculous observations about light of the day and bringing light into the room. She's an interviewer. She interviewed them. It's straightforward. It's a ridiculous performance by these two. It's self-absorbed. It demonstrates the way that they seek to control one another with the hand-holding and control those around by presenting this supposed united, sweet, sweet, sweet front. The way that they talk is inauthentic. It is an approximation of emotions. It is an attempt to dupe, although they think that they are being sincere. There's a rigidity to their actions, which shows that they don't flow naturally with emotional empathy. And throughout these various snippets, and if I were to look and find more, they would continue to demonstrate similar points, what you're watching is a pair of self-absorbed narcissists that are only in it for the prime aims, but think that they're something special, think that they're wonderful, think that their characters are actually them, that they are bringing Elphaba and Glinda into the real world, that they are unable to distinguish between the creation and the real world, the magical thinking that you see with the narcissist. There might be some that would think this is all part of an act to promote. It isn't. You can see that it is an act generated by narcissism, but they mean to behave this way. They're not thinking that they're acting. This is how they go on with one another and portray themselves to the world. It is demonstrative of two self-absorbed narcissists that operate a facade of being such a pair of sugary, delightful individuals, drinking in the fuel from the interviewers and the press pack and other people that are on the onlookers. They're completely caught up in themselves, almost created an awful shared fantasy of folie à deux, as they clutch at one another, seeming as if they're supporting one another. The air kissing, the mopping of the sweat, the holding one another, the holding of the hands, it's all done as part of the presentation of an image. And undoubtedly, plenty of people have mocked it, and rightly so. But at the end of the day, what you're watching is a pair of narcissists. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for watching.